What is up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the Budding Watch Enthusiast. Here on this channel, I review and discuss wristwatches from the perspective of a newer watch collector. If you enjoyed this video, consider clicking the red subscribe button and ringing the bell icon down below. So lately, a couple friends of mine have been either downsizing their watch collections or kind of challenging themselves to sort of tighten up their watch collections as, you know, kind of a New Year's resolution, or just to kind of get rid of watches that aren't really being worn a lot of the time and keep things more focused on the things that they're wearing on a more regular basis. And it actually got me thinking about a topic that for me has always been much more of like a thought exercise as opposed to actually like a practical application. But you hear a lot of watch enthusiasts talk about certain watches as candidates for a one watch collection, a watch that if it was the only watch that you owned would be perfect in a wide variety of different situations. And not that this is something that I'm ever going to do at any point, because I really couldn't picture only owning one watch. That seems a bit extreme. I mean, for me, cutting down my collection by the end of the year to 10 watches is causing me a lot of stress in terms of what stays and what goes and things of that nature. But it did get me to thinking, is there a watch in my current collection that I would consider to be a one watch collection candidate for me? Is there a watch that I have that works so well in a wide variety of situations that it could be the only watch that I own? Now, this term gets thrown around a lot with things like the Rolex Explorer, for example, or like an Omega Speedmaster some people think would be a great one watch option, or something like a Patek like Calatrava, things of that nature as well. I don't think there's one universal answer that you can just assign to everybody, because, you know, what works as a one watch collection is going to differ from individual to individual. It really does matter what your specific needs are, what you need that watch to be able to do, that would determine whether or not it could be something that's the only thing in your collection. So it's a very difficult question to answer from an objective standpoint. So I have to come at it as an approach for what works best for me personally. So for me, a sports watch is something that's going to be appropriate for my everyday usage, like 99.9% of the time. Rarely am I ever having to dress up wearing a suit. Even more rare than that, am I ever required to do any sort of like black tie affair of any nature. Matching, though, is also something that's really important to me. I can't use a watch whose color or style is very outlandish. I'm always very conscious about matching up my watch to whatever outfit that I happen to be wearing that day. And it just so happens that I wear a lot of reds and blues. Those are probably the two most predominant colors of clothing that I wear on a regular, consistent basis. So there's a couple candidates in my collection that you could consider for this. Like something like the NTH Knack and Renegade comes close, though that's probably a little too sporty to really work as a one watch. Something like the Sal Baltimore Founders Edition is something that I think also works really well and is highly considered. For me, the thing that stopped me there is it's kind of a little bit too large to pull off in sort of an every situation kind of scenario. Really, as I kind of looked through things, and it really did come down to there's only one watch that I currently own that I think really could qualify as a candidate for the one watch collection. And I think personally that's the Christopher Ward C65 GMT Pepsi. So here's the reasons why I think that this watch could work as a one watch collection for me. So color-wise, it's fairly color neutral. You got the black dial with these loomed markers that are relatively thin that go around the outside of the dial. But thanks to the Pepsi bezel that comes on the watch, it does have a little bit of color flair that makes it a little bit more visually interesting. I think it also helps that with this watch, Christopher Ward decided to go with a shade of red and blue that's a little bit more rich, kind of like the Tudor GMT bezel, as opposed to like the really bold, vibrant colors that you see on the Rolex GMT Master bezel. Now, as far as sizing goes, since my wrists are 8 inches around and I am a bigger guy, the 41 millimeter width is actually a bit more of a moderate size for me. It's kind of right in the middle of where I'm comfortable. The thing that really helps this watch's versatility, though, is the fact that it is so thin. Because it's only, you know, a little bit more than 11 millimeters in height, it can easily fit under a shirt cuff. One thing that I cannot say about my Sal Baltimore Founders Edition, for example. And then speaking of versatility, this pretty much has every feature that I would require from a sports watch. Even though it's not a screw-down crown, it still has 150 meters of water resistance. The blending of finishing on the watch kind of disguises any marks and scuffs that the watch might pick up through going on any kinds of outdoor adventures. And you can pair this watch with a really wide variety of looks, and it looks really good no matter what you put it with. I like this watch best on the Christopher Ward leather strap. But it looks just as good on the included bracelet that it comes with. It looks great on a Nato strap as well. I'd really like to see what this looks like on like a sailcloth strap or like a Cordura strap, because I think that those looks would be really excellent for this watch as well. But it works in just a crazy variety of different situations thanks to the different amount of straps that it can be paired with. You guys know that the GMT complication is arguably my favorite complication for me on any wristwatch out there. So getting that extra utility out of this watch is super helpful as well. And I also like that the fact that it's a GMT, but the GMT layout doesn't really dominate the face of the watch. This is one of the reasons why I picked this over the Manta SkyQuest, for example, because on the SkyQuest, the GMT features are much more plastered onto the watch because you have the steel outer bezel and also the chapter ring that has the GMT markers. Whereas on the C65, you just have the bezel, and even the numerals on the bezel are pretty restrained and pretty reserved. The design of this watch just feels really classic. It feels like it's never really going to go out of style. This watch obviously takes design cues from the Rolex GMT Master, and that watch has been around for over 60 years. But I think the C65 might be even more versatile because it really plays down the fact that this is a sports watch because the markers are a lot thinner than you'd find on the Rolex GMT. So yeah, for those reasons, if for some reason I ever woke up and just like, I'm a one watch man now, or if, financial hardship ever struck me that I had to get rid of everything, but I still wanted to keep one watch, of my current collection as it sits right now, the Christopher Ward C65 GMT is that watch for me. And it'll be interesting to see if that holds true. I know that you guys have heard me talk about the desire to eventually pick up a Grand Seiko at some point. Grand Seiko is also one of those watches that has like tremendous, one watch potential all over it as well. So we'll see which one that I end up with at some point down the road. And maybe that might be like the new one watch collection. But for me, for my collection as it currently sits right now, the Christopher Ward C65 GMT, if I had to be a one watch guy, probably would be the one watch that I pick. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below that if you had to only keep one watch out of your collection, what would be your one watch collection piece that you currently own? Again, sound off in the comments. I think State of the Collection is the next episode that I plan on filming, so look forward to that. If you guys enjoyed this video, click the thumb down below. If you loved it, click the red subscribe button and ring the bell icon. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you all the next time.